And it's 7 o'clock, so let's begin. The moon is full tonight, all the better to cast the light of scrutiny onto Newcastle Borough Council. Welcome to the Queen Elizabeth II room for tonight's meeting of the Finance, Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee. We did meet a long time ago, it feels like. We did cancel the meeting on the scheduled evening of our last meeting. We were going to meet at 7 p.m. and at 6:30 the announcement was made of Her late Majesty's death. For that reason, we have quite a bit of business to pick up on, including we've got 2 quarters of the quarterly performance reports to look at. I'll start with item 1 on the agenda then. Apologies for absence. I know we have a few. Would our clerk care to read the names?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Brocky and Councillor Grocott is subbing. Apologies from Councillor Parker, Councillor Adcock is subbing, and from Councillor Betley Smith and Councillor Wielden is substituting.
Thank you very much for those. Are there any other apologies? Councillor Stubbs.
Just Councillor Allport, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Item number 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? I see no nodding. Item number 3, minutes of the previous meeting. These appear at pages 3 to 6 on the agenda packs. Those are the minutes of the meeting of the 30th of June. Any questions or corrections for the minutes? Would someone like to move the minutes? Councillor Waring. Everyone in favour of the minutes? Phenomenal. Those are approved. Item number 4 is the update from Cabinet. We are delighted to welcome tonight to give that update Councillor Stephen Sweeney, who looks as much like Father Christmas as it's possible to be, while also being an incredibly responsible and dignified public figure. Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you for those kind words, Chairman. I do feel you're somewhat mocking me, perhaps, but never mind. If I have a ponytail next, we'll be there. I think at the last meeting, I think there were two points raised. Future reports include the current financial position alongside the quarterly position and some narrative around how the council is managing changing financial circumstances. I believe that's been done now and is shown on the thing. And the other one, of course, is smiley faces, the famed smiley faces. This will be the last set of reports you'll get in this format. The next one will have the smiley face. We'll have the new way of doing it, and there will be a sort of half an hour's training session, I believe, to sort of show people how to interpret the new reports. So that will finally be done. No more smiley faces. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. I think that's very welcome news, particularly the offer of training in respect of the new format of the report, which I'm sure all members will want to take advantage of in order to digest those. Any questions on that update for Councillor Sweeney? No questions. Excellent. We'll move on then to item number 5, which is the first draft savings plan for the revenue and capital budget for the forthcoming financial year. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm going to introduce this and then I'll be open for questions of a general-ish nature. As I think I say at every meeting, I'm not an accountant, but sitting on my left, I have 2 accountants. So if there's anything that is too technical and too accountancy, I will pass over to the 2 officers on my immediate left. The report in front of you presents the refreshed medium-term financial strategy, including the first draft proposals being considered to balance the 23-24 revenue budget and the proposed capital programme for 23-24 to 25-26. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a 2.134 million budget gap for 23-24 via a vigorous efficiency board process, which included sort of all senior managers, the cabinet in its entirety, going through pulling budgets apart to see where we get from. And they've been agreed with managers as being both feasible and sustainable, which I think are 2 important words from this ceremony. A major transformation programme, the One Council programme, which I'm sure we've all heard about, commenced during 21-22, which involves an extensive redesign of our organisational structures, processes and technology, underpinned by changes in culture, leadership and governance. £195,000 of savings have already been achieved during 21-22. A further £601,000 of savings will be achieved for 22-23, and a further £376,000 are proposed to save for 23-24. The bit I think that everybody's really interested in is significantly below inflation council tax increase of 1.99% per Band D property is proposed. This amounts to 10 pence per week or less. for 95% of households within the borough, band A, B, C, D, and E. I might point out that we could put a horizon of 2.99%, but we didn't. I think our pledges on our election campaign were very clear that we would not increase it by more than 1.99%. And that's what we've done. We've stuck to what we said. The savings identified enable a continued contribution of £250,000 to the Borough Growth Fund. This will continue to enable investment in the council's priorities, including significant investment in boosting the sustainability of the environment within the borough and supporting developments of the town centre. The capital programme for 23-24 and 25-26 is based on new schemes which are vital to ensure continued service delivery and assisting the council to achieve its corporate and service objectives as set out in the council plan. These schemes total 45.464 million, of which 32.977 million relates to 23-24. This includes schemes funded for major investment into the borough, successfully secured via the Future High Streets Fund and the Town Deals Fund for both Newcastle and Kidsgrove. Now, if you turn to the savings, there's two things really. Well, the main thing is inflation. Inflation has been the hidden terrible weapon that causes huge problems for everybody, every company in the country, every authority in the country. Everybody will be suffering from inflation. And if you look on the Appendix C, for example, you will see a 22-23 pay award of £447,000. It was extra. We normally put 2.5% in as our MTFS finance figure for wage rise. We could see something coming down the track a year ago, so we put up to 4%. Obviously, that wasn't enough. So that's £447,000 extra we've had to find. And then, of course, superannuation then goes up. Superannuation lump sum increases. Everything goes up along the lines. Increases of fuel, gas, everything's gone up. Inflation is the absolute terror of businesses. That's why I'm so desperate to get it down in the next few months. However, saying that, it's a balanced budget. It's a budget that's prepared in good time. It's it's a sensible budget. It commits money to our key priorities. I think we're well in advance of the game in most places in Staffordshire. This is on top, by the way, of having an absolutely excellent audit report that we've just had the auditors in, which Councillor Waring there is nodding his head vigorously, which is as good a report as we can get. And I think the circumstances of the finances of the country at the moment, I think this is an excellent budget. I'm happy to put forward these savings proposals. It's not the actual budget, obviously, but it's the savings proposals to achieve the figure. And I'm very happy to put these forward. Thank you. And I'll take any questions of a general nature. I say two particular, and I'll pass over to the accountants on my left. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sweeney. Yes, I should have said as we launched into the report, it does include the latest refresh of the MTFS as well as the savings plan in the appendices to the report. Does anybody have any questions about what we've just heard from Councillor Sweeney, or about the report, or about any of the appendices? Please, it'd be helpful if you could refer to the page in the agenda that you're making remarks on, because that would help our officer and our portfolio holder to respond. I can see Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Stubbs.
I feel like you're mocking me now, Chair.
I'd like to apologise. I think I have resting mockery face or voice. I'm genuinely not. I'm keen to hear what you've got to say.
Just a few, well, maybe more than a few. If we can go to Appendix A, which I believe is on page 11 of the pack. If I can ask the Section 151 officer, I'll just pick a few of the suggested areas of saving or additional income. The one council, 376,000, seems it's a big number with no detail. Where we've seen in leisure and recycling and corporate, where we've been able to drill it down, can we have some sort of breakdown of that 376,000, just how it will be saved, please?
Yeah, the £376,000 that we've identified as part of the one council savings, we are still working on the support services restructure at the moment. That's a big part of work that's continuing. We have identified savings through that, and George, you could perhaps talk a little bit more about that. There are a number of sort of work streams that are currently ongoing at the moment. So we've got the multifunctional mobile multifunctional team that we're looking at. So this is looking at areas where we can digitize work streams. So, for example, street scene or pest control, when they're out and about, they can report back via tech that would save us time, etc. But for the next report, we can put a little bit more detail about how that £376,000 is made up, because I appreciate it's a one sentence compared to other areas. Okay.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you for that. It does feel very much at the moment like it's a balancing figure rather than a real figure. So I would appreciate the breakdown. Moving to the bereavement services, so I1 on the list, the £75,000, a full review of the charges, including comparisons. Have we got to wait for the fees and charges policy, which I know always comes out with the budget in sort of February, March, or can we get some sort of feel for what that is? You know, what, for example, what are we looking to do there? Are we looking for across the board increases in bereavement actions, or are there things there that, you know, we as councillors need to know about? For example, the one that is very, very uncomfortable, but how we treat deaths of like under 16s, for example, where we cover the cost. I hope there's no threat to that.
There's been quite a lot of work done to review our fees and charges compared to what other authorities charge. Some of those fees will be coming up. I'm not sure what the percentage is. Like I say, it will come out of the fees and charges report in January, but they are to bring our fees and charges more in line with what other authorities are charging at the moment. So I don't recall that there's anything off the wall there, as in we are producing any new fee for a particular area as such. We are just bringing ourselves more in line with other authorities with our charging policy.
The Stubbs.
One final one, Chair, and then I'll let other councillors have a go. S1 leisure and cultural, the life-saving detection system. I'm pretty sure this was floating around. Sorry, floating. Freud, a bit of a slip there. This was mentioned last year. Can we get some? I mean, and it might not be fair trusting the accountant. What life-saving detection system is this? And is this detection system, if it goes off, going to dive in and save that person, or it might just tell us that there's a problem and then there's nobody there to sort the problem? Can we get an answer on that, please, Chair?
I think you're right, Councillor Stubbs. This was something we discussed at about this time last year. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It was, and I can remember you'll get the same answers as I gave you last year when you asked the similar sort of question. And Mrs. Wilkes, sitting on my left here, has two twin girls, and Mrs. Wilkes has been swimming with the two twin girls, and she's quite confident and perfectly relaxed with the system that'll work fine. I think it must pick adverse movements up in the water or something to alarm the lifeguards. That's the point of it. But it has been talked about before last year, yes. But I say Sarah's got two girls and she's happy with the system. So she's happy, I'm happy, as I'm sure you realise, Mike. Say again? Oh,
yes, I think our officer would like to give a little more detail.
Thank you, Chair. It's a drowning detection system, which is an electronic system which takes pictures above the water and under the water to see if somebody is not making any movement, and if that aids the lifeguards who might not be able to see because of something else going on. And if they see no movement for a certain number of seconds, an alarm goes, and that's when the lifeguards will be alerted to the problem. But it has the advantage of we don't need as many lifeguards on the side of the pool, but this is a tried and tested movement detection or non-movement detection anti-drowning device, and it's now in operation in J2.
Thank you for that information, and thank you for the questions, Councillor Stubbs. Does anybody else wish to ask a question on the report? Councillor Lawley.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions to the Section 151 officer as also. So the first one's regarding the museum commercialisation. Just wanted to know what that entails, because at the moment the Brampton Museum is completely free, isn't it? So I just wanted to know if that's at risk and that kind of thing. I'll let you answer that first before I go on to the second question, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, it is still free to go into the museum. The areas of commercialisation that you're referring to is things like when we have Santa up there for Christmas time, and it's costing that. How much does it cost us for Santa to go, for us to get the presents, and what should we should be charging the families to go and actually sort of they're the sorts of things that we are currently reviewing, and that's what falls under this umbrella. So it's events that take place. It's making sure that we cost those events out properly and that we recoup, the income that we need to cover the cost of those events.
It's things like hire, and we've got a big new space up there now, and we want to make best use of it. So yeah, it's room hire, putting other activities in, things like that. But there absolutely no way we'll be charging people to go into the museum. Absolutely not at all. No.
Thank you for that firm answer from the portfolio holder. Do you have a further question?
I do, thank you. And then the other question was referring to the garden waste. So it says about an increase in cost. I was just wondering, the garden waste, I'm on the understanding, works January to December. Obviously, financial years are from the April. So I was wondering when that would come into fruition, essentially.
Yeah, so the increase in the garden waste fee is £2.50. So it's going from £36 to £38.50. You're right, as in it does run for a calendar year. So that will actually start from January. So people now that are deciding whether they want to renew their garden waste subscription will be renewing it on the £38.50 charge, ready for the next calendar year.
Of course, a £2.50 over 4 years rise. And it will run for, I think it's 50 weeks a year. It'll run. It's sort of 2 weeks over Christmas, isn't it? But that will start in January. It's already on the website now. You'll see it at £38.50. So it's not a secret. It's on there. Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to ask a question, or shall I return to Councillor Stubbs? Happy to take other members first. I know he's already had a go. In that case, Councillor Stubbs.
I'll move us on to the MTFS, Chair, if I might. Page 20, I think it's page 6 of the MTFS, but page 20 of the pack. It talks about the borough profile and the quite concerning figures that Newcastle as a borough is, from a population point of view, is shrinking. I don't want to, for the sake of people listening at home, obviously there's been a decrease of about 600 people since 2011, but it's very clear to see that the pensioner population has risen. Is it? I suppose I'm asking the portfolio holder. Is it concerning about the number of working age people leaving Newcastle on the Lyme to either work elsewhere or raise their children elsewhere? Because that's what the figures say. Is there anything we can do to stop that? Because we can see the population shrunk, so it can only mean if the pensioner population's risen, that the number of working people's fell.
It could be that, yeah. I could think of another answer, that they caught at the wrong time at Keele University when the university was empty, and that's what's caused the problem. I don't believe that the population is in effect falling. I just think the snapshots come at the wrong time for Keele, and we're having a band review on the county council at the moment, and it's all driven by Keele. And I think it's just hit the wrong time, person. That's my considered opinion. You got another opinion on that, Simon?
It's a national problem that when they did the census, a lot of the students were at home. So normally the large numbers of students that would be at Keele weren't counted. So it has given the impression that the borough has decreased its population, but actually when the students are back, which they are now, you'll see that it's actually increased, but we don't have that census data because they only do it every 10 years. But it was a national problem of university kids being at home.
Thanks very much for that answer. I know Councillor Stubbs did also ask about the rising demographic generally, and I know that assuming that the population of the borough is practically static, if not statistically, we still have an ageing population. And I think that was perhaps the other end of Councillor Stubbs' question, but I'll let him have another go.
Yeah, just coming back on that answer there. So whilst I understand there not being several hundred young adults at the top of the hill, but surely that means if it was done, then all the young adults that went away to university would be back at home. So I feel like we're trying to take the figure down with one, and I accept that Keele was might have been closed for summer holidays, but that meant that all the students that travel from Newcastle and Stoke to other universities would have been at home. So that kind of sort of defeats that argument, unless we're saying there's a lot more university students that come to Newcastle than actually travel out of Newcastle.
There are 20,000 students up at Keele University. I don't believe we have 20,000 returning students into the borough, I'm afraid. So that's why there is such a discrepancy. And it's one of the things we need to address. We want to get more of our young people into university education, but it's not. It's the 20,000 at Keele. It's such a big university. That was why we had that double whammy. We believe it's not. We haven't got the actual science and facts around, but that is a national discussion going on, because I think it wasn't a summer holiday when they did the census. It was in January, February time, just after COVID 2021.
I think we'll draw that to a conclusion there, I think, because if there is a national discussion, it will be of the character that university towns will have seen their population dip in the census, and non-university towns will have seen a commensurate rise because of those students being at home. Did you have a follow-up question or anything related? No? In that case, Councillor Wheeldon indicated. Oh, okay, I apologise.
I was going to say, was it?
If you use your microphone, the audience at home will be able to hear you.
I will get used to this, I promise. Having worked at university, those statistics are always just a moment in time. We did have COVID, students were sent home. Very few of them, other than the overseas students, stayed. Those that went home tended to be considered domiciled on their town, city of birth. So it will have affected those statistics that were just a moment in time. When you talk about the aging population increasing, I think that just shows how well we look after our people in Newcastle Borough, that they manage to live to much riper old ages.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. And I hope that's true for all of us here tonight and across the council area. I wasn't going to say that, Councillor Sweeney. In that case, we've got 5 recommendations, which is helpful, actually. They're quite detailed. Recommendations 1 through 3 are to note the report and its appendices, which I think we've done. Recommendation 4 is to identify areas where further information is required for consideration. I think I heard a request from Councillor Stubbs for a more detailed breakdown of the one council savings. And the fees and charges are coming to us at our January meeting anyway, which I think will answer the question that Councillor Lawley posed. Are there any other items, bits of information, statistics that we'd like to see? Because of course we're going to do full budget scrutiny between now and the end of the fiscal year. No, in that case, those are the 2 items that I had down. And if we could make a note that those are the 2 things we'd like to see a little bit more of in terms of information. Recommendation number 5 is that the committee suggest any further areas of savings that should be considered. Now, at annual council, if I don't do it, somebody else will. We will say, should there be a proposal for a budget amendment at that time, either from an opposition group or from a plucky backbench councillor of the Conservative persuasion, we will say that opportunities were given at scrutiny for people to raise these things. This is that opportunity. There will be another one at the January meeting, so if people think of something between now and then. But does anybody now have something that they think, having read the report, having read the draft savings, is there somewhere else our officers should be looking? And if the answer to that is no, I think that's recommendation 5 disposed of then. Are we happy then with those 2 items under number 4 then to go through Excellent. That concludes discussion on that item. The next item then is the commercial strategy. I'll ask Councillor Sweeney if he'd like to introduce first, and he may pass on to our officer.
Yeah, I thank you for that, Councillor. Obviously, our commercial strategy is vitally important to the sustainability of this council. But I think Mr. McLenamy is ready to lead on this. Are you not? McLenamy.
Mr. McKennany.
McKennany, not me. He's a footballer, wasn't he?
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Swoney. Commercial strategy. I think this is one of our 6 monthly updates, but I think since March we had a few new members to the committee. So I'll introduce what the commercial strategy is. In 2019, there was a document produced which was outlining the council strategy to add to the revenue support that the commercial division could give to the council in terms of investments that we could make in terms of getting revenue. Whilst we might be capital rich, we're potentially revenue poor. The the property portfolio at the moment generates around £400,000 worth of revenue for the council, but we have some quite robust and large income targets that we have to try and achieve to help Sarah meet her budget requirements, etc. So this report is something that we do every 6 months just to let you know how well we're doing or how well we're not doing, because at the time we wrote the report, it was a very different situation because we were going to present this in September. Things have changed significantly then, so a few of these things are slowing down, even though we say in the report that it was a very busy market. Every time we went to try and purchase something for an investment, we found that it had been taken off the market straight away because people were just buying everything that they could. That is changing at the moment, and we think it'll change a little bit more in January, February time, and we're hoping that it'll pick up later in the summer, but we'll have to wait and see. An aspect that has been added to the investment strategy or the commercial strategy since we last met in March is that there's now a sustainable environment strategy that's been adopted, and all of our investments have to have some form of sustainability element to it, so that we are investing in technologies or buildings, etc., that have an environmental twang to them. So we're also we can show that we're doing sustainable investment. Page 2 and 3 of the report from section 2.7 onwards detail the current investment opportunities we're looking at. Land at Parkhouse West in Chesterton is an extension of the Parkhouse West industrial estate. There's some old scrub land that is near the NatWest Bank there that is part of, it covers some of the old demolition and stuff. And we think that we might be able to create a green, environmental, sustainable industrial park where they will have green technologies like rainwater harvesting, solar panels, travel to work plans, etc. So we have a different type of industrial unit offer rather than just being a big shed. So these things will be cheaper to run, there'll be cheaper smaller carbon footprints when we're building them, etc. So we try and change the model of the industrial unit in the borough. So we've got a bid into the government for the Levelling Up Fund, which will help us pay for that if we're lucky. If not, we'll do the investments ourselves by borrowing, and that is, we're working through the business cases of that. We're just waiting to see whether the Levelling Up Fund will deliver that investment for us. Otherwise, we'll take it through ourselves. We've got land at Apedale, which we're working through whether that deal will actually go through with the proprietor that wanted to put a battery storage on there. And if that falls through, and it does look like there are some challenges on that, and we are mindful that the purchaser may walk away, but we've got some plans for that to market that, etc. Land at Chatterley Valley, which is one of our big enterprise zones up in just south of the A500, sorry. That is a site that we're working on with Harworth, who own the site. It's they've started the earthworks. That benefited from some town deal money, and we've also put that in for the Levelling Up Fund as well to see whether they will help us work with a company called Lucidian, who are the advanced ceramics company out of Stoke, who are relocating to that site, and Harworth are actively marketing that investment opportunity for big sheds, logistics sheds, etc. But what we're trying to do is help fund and invest in the advanced ceramics campus up there, which we will own, part own, rent, etc. So we'll get some returns from that. And that is due to, whilst the horizontal platform is what they call like the flat earth is being done at the moment, we'll start to build the vertical buildings early in late 23, early 24, with a view to 24 Lucidian moving in. So that investment will show some dividends quite soon. The former Zanzibar premises, now depending on what age you are, you'll know Zanzibar was either a nightclub you used to go to or have frequently been, but I think you used to call it Ritzy's and then the Crystal and all that. So we're working with Aspire, who own that site, for the back of the site on North Street. We're going to put some enterprise units on, about 8 or 9 enterprise units, where very similar to the ones that are in Nutton, where people starting up businesses can rent some space at relatively cheap and easy rates, etc., to try and get business opportunities started. And Aspire, who own the site and will be building it for us, are due to put the planning application in the new year with a view to starting that in 23, which will be great. And then lastly, the largest of all of that probably is the York Place redevelopment, which we're currently working through. As you know, we own that now, and we are currently helping the tenants relocate out of the building with a view to getting a planning application in early next year for the development of a new York Place, which will be split into 2 blocks with commercial, retail. What we want to try and do is create an eatery zone, a restaurant type thing around a plaza for outside eating, etc., when the weather's better, and then with offices above. So we're due to get that into planning, as I say, early next year, and that will be as part of the future high street work that we're trying to do across the road at the Rycroft with the new car park, etc., etc., will help transform our market, our high street, sorry. And that, just very quickly, is what we're trying to do commercially. See, the idea is we try and get as much money in for as little money outlay for Sarah to keep us afloat.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive update on the commercial strategy. Yes, this is extremely important. It is essential in closing some of those gaps that we've just looked at in the MTFS. The better we do at our commercial strategy, the easier it will be on the council in the long run. Does anybody have any questions for the portfolio holder or for our officer? Okay, I should go with Councillor Bryan first.
Thank you, Chair. It's only a quick one. I believe there's a significant waiting list on the children to learn to swim. Now, obviously, that's parents or guardians who are willing to give the council money for their children to do that. I just wondered if there was a plan to try and eradicate that list and get the money in, really. Thank you.
So did you say swim?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, at J2.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we've got a very large program of swimming lessons at J2. We teach a lot more children during the school day, which is something that if the children are getting taught during the school day, they won't need to do it at the weekends, etc. Entrust, who used to do that for the county, stopped doing that after the pandemic. So we're now dealing directly with the schools. Part of the problems of engaging with the schools is the cost of the coaching to the swimming pool. So that's one side. We're trying to do as many school children as we can. So therefore we alleviate the demand at the weekends, etc. The trouble is we've only a certain size pool, certain number of swimming instructors, and a certain number of kids that we could have in the pool at any one time. So J2 are working hard as they can to get as many, not just children in, but new swimmers, new members to the gym. We've got a new health and well-being suite that's been put in. We've refurbished the gym itself, and we're now at membership levels that are the same as they were just before the pandemic. So we've bounced back quite quickly, and that is it is an income stream for us, but it's a luxury. And as we go through next year, we'll have to see how those numbers hold up. But in terms of swimming, we're doing our best, but I don't think we'll ever eradicate the need or the number of people on a list for swimming, I'm afraid.
When I spoke to them at the weekend, they advised that the list is so big that they've actually had to cap it. And they advised that it was a list of 500 children. And I just was kind of shocked, really, and taken aback by the fact how large that list was.
It's
but I
because they
appreciate-
don't get the lessons during the teaching during the school day. So that's why parents now try and do it at the weekend. And we're engaging with every school across the borough to try and make sure that the kids do have access to swimming. But as I say, it's the travel costs. And that's one of the reasons why the county council offer failed, because they just weren't able to recoup the costs of the travel, and the schools have also got financial struggles. So it's a sort of everyone's trying to do the best, but it's just too expensive to get the kids in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that answer. I'll go to Councillor Waring and then to Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Waring.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a quick question for our officer. I was just wondering, can you give us a sort of ballpark figure for the net return you expect to get on the properties that we're going to be building and subsequently renting out? Because that's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine when I've looked at the figures in the past. I just wondered if you could give us some idea of what it might be. Thanks.
I can't give you an exact figure of what they will be, because one, I haven't built them yet, and two, we haven't rented them out. But Sarah's given me a target of 250 grand a year for 4 years, every year extra. So it's £1 million over 4 years. But when that 4 years starts, that's what I keep telling her anyway.
Anything further? The Stubbs.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the swimming, actually, I'm sure Kisgrove Sports Centre would love to take some of those people for extra lessons. And also, just popping back to the previous item, there's 30,000 in the budget for additional swimming lessons income. So if we're capped, I'm questioning how we're actually going to achieve that 30,000, but that's I'll leave that with the finance team. Back to this report, page 37, when it talks about the Chatterley Valley project. You mentioned that the advanced ceramic facility, sorry, I forget the name of the business, that they're moving across from Stoke. So whilst I welcome the fact that they're going to be paying their business rates in Newcastle, I do wonder what net gain the whole of North Staffordshire is getting from that, because we were promised X thousand new jobs on that site. While I suspect people will commute from Stoke to Newcastle, it's not exactly the farthest trip. So where are the new jobs going to come from that are going to obviously make more money for the local area? Yes, we'll get more business rates because the business has moved into Newcastle, which is great. It just means we're taking it from Stoke. But the new jobs that are supposed to come with that, where are those going to come? Is it twice the size site or something like that? And if that's the case, can we get a bit more detail on that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Lucidian will be relocating from Stoke, as we rightly say. They will be increasing the size of the facility that they have there. They'll have a new headquarter building, which will be much larger than the one they already have, a new manufacturing facility, which will then they will be able to then expand their manufacturing capacity. But they're also putting on the ground a research and development building, which will then be a nationwide centre of excellence for people to come and do research and development in. So there will be significant growth in Lucidian's core employee numbers, and there will be new jobs created at the research and development centre. But we're also creating, as part of our own strategy, is to create a small business park next to the Lucidian's campus, to create this wider advanced ceramics campus, which will be, instead of it being a white van industrial estate, it will be a white BMW car business park type thing with high-end manufacturing, which will sit alongside, which will be potentially new to the borough. Haworth's new sheds that will also be going up on further back will also bring new jobs as well, because they won't be existing companies. The people that are already talking to Haworth about taking this space are not currently in the borough, so there will be new jobs. So we've said around 1,700. It's an estimate at best guess when we put the plans together, but we do expect that we'll be able to create new employment opportunities for people in the borough, because there'll be new businesses moving in, and some of them will, and from every scale, will be high end all the way through to low end. But as you say, we'll also get the business rates back because it's an enterprise zone, so we benefit from that.
Thank you for the answer and thanks for the question, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Lawley.
Thank you. My question's about, obviously, you've just gone through the commercial plans and looking at specifically York Place, for example. I think the plans sound really good. However, as Councillor Sweeney's already mentioned, obviously inflation has hit us fairly badly at the moment. So I was just wondering are the plans being scaled back, or are we potentially looking at spending more than initially planned, and what the plan is now versus 6 months ago?
The plans 6 months ago and now are exactly the same, but what we're trying to do is create a project that shows value for money. So we've done an awful lot of value engineering to try and cut out the material costs and inflation cost rises that we've seen. It will cost us a little bit more than we first anticipated, but we are confident that the scheme stacks up financially and we'll be borrowing to deliver that scheme as soon as we can. But it is an issue across, as Steve said earlier on, it's across every aspect of the council. It's not just everything we're putting on the ground. It's inflationary costs for everything we purchase and use in the council as well. So we are cutting our cloth accordingly, but we are trying not to diminish the scope and vision for the development that we've got, because we think that the plans that we've got for that site warrant the level of design that we think that we're going to be able to deliver, because it, fingers crossed, will look really smart when we pull it off.
Thank you very much. Did you have a follow-up? No?
No.
Would any other councillor like to ask a question on the report? In that case, is any closing remarks from Councillor Sweeney?
No, I think it's an exciting strategy. I think well, I say no and I'll start talking, so perhaps I should have said yes. The Chatley Valley is the one that's really, really exciting for us. So my vision of it is like the officer says, it's not sheds, it's more like a science business park, like at Keele University. It's those sort of facilities, those sort of jobs coming there, and I think it's really exciting. I also thank Councillor Stubbs for pointing out, of course, that the Kids Grove pool being reopened has got, I'm sure, loads of facility to take children for swimming lessons. There's not enough space for children for swimming. So no, I think it's an exciting strategy. I think we're moving in the right direction. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much then, Councillor Sweeney. Item number 7 and 8 on the agenda are the financial and performance reviews for the first and the second quarters. The first of those is largely historic now, so I'm going to propose jumping over it and only looking in detail at the second one, unless anybody's got a burning question or comment on the first quarter. There is a report, and then of course the indicators afterwards. They are now reasonably old, so we'll go straight on to the second one then. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to introduce that?
Yeah, I will do. I think Georgie's going to talk a bit more about it, but I think like you say, Chairman, the first one is really out of date now, but it should have been looked at when Her Majesty died. So it's a bit, but I would point out though that the performance indicators on the first report, we've got 80%, I think, were good or okay, and the revenue budget was £129,000 out. 3 months on, the 80 is now gone up to 85% of indicators are okay, and the shortfall is now down to 105,000, and this is down really to the economy recovering in the country, and people returning to our town centres, people returning to our car park, people returning to J2, as I've said, it's now almost up to pre-COVID positions, so that's coming in place. But I'll leave it at that, and if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you, and if I can't, I'm sure Georgie will.
A very smiley face. In that case, the second quarterly report starts at page 69, I think. Do we have any questions on the report before we go into the indicators? Councillor Stubbs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just going to the forecast. You mentioned, sorry, was it 130 and it had dropped to 130?
105 now.
105, yeah. So the line that's in the report, though, basically says that, but we expect to get back to parity. But given that over the 6 months, we've actually only managed to reduce the adverse variance by several thousand. What gives the Section 151 the confidence to forecast that we will be able to recover the 100k plus in the remaining 6 months of the financial year?
I think the answer is we do every year, but I can see she's burning to answer the question.
Yeah, we do. So the start of the financial year, we had a number of issues with our cremator, which, as you can expect, we generate a lot of income from bereavement services. This had a huge impact for us at the start of the year. We've resolved those issues now, and the cremator is actually working okay now. So we're back on sort of track with that income stream. As Councillor Sweeney said earlier, J2, so leisure facilities, we closed the gym off for a period of about 3-4 weeks earlier in the year when we replaced all the gym equipment. So that's all been refurbed and that's back open again now. We've got the membership numbers are coming back up to what we were pre-COVID levels. So from the income side of things, we're starting to sort of even ourselves out there. In respect of clawing some of that shortfall back at the start of the financial year, we got a couple of reserves that we put in place when we set the budget last year. So we've got the cost of living reserve, which we put £400,000 in. We've got the budget support fund, which we put £240,000 in. So we're starting to profile some of those reserves now throughout the year, which will enable us to get a balanced position at the end of the year. Okay.
Thank you very much for that answer. Did you have a further question, Councillor Stubbs? Well, there's coming on then to the performance indicators. They start at page 77, and as was mentioned previously, this is the last time we're going to see them in their current format. So let's take a nostalgic trip through these. We'll start then with priority 1, local services that work for local people. That starts on page 77. I can see that there is one red indicator under Councillor Sweeney's portfolio. Would you like to comment on that first of all?
Yeah. I know. How can I put this? It's one's gone to 2, so it's 100% worse. So it wasn't 1; it's now 2. But I'll let Georgie give the full story about it because there's a story behind it.
Yes, I am head of smiley faces apparently. So the one over our target is related to an issue and an accident that was reported as work related, but only after a certain amount of time. So an individual went on holiday and came back and said prior to their holiday they had suffered an accident at work, and therefore we had to report it. However, we aren't able to really ascertain what happened, and the evidence doesn't necessarily show that there was any failings due to any equipment or any action or inaction from an officer. So whereas yes, absolutely, 2 accidents that we've had to report, we want it to be 0, but again, I'm not concerned about the numbers there.
Thank you. The other red indicator on the priority 1 is number 13. Councillor Tagg's not with us this evening, but would our officer care to comment on sickness absence?
Absence. Which number is that? Because I was looking at 1.6. 1.3. Right. Okay. Yeah. So we are still low compared to other neighbouring authorities. We want to be even lower, and we're doing a lot of work in terms of getting that sickness figure down. One thing that we have noticed is as people were working from home during COVID, they wouldn't necessarily report in as sick, and that might have meant they were struggling on at home and working as usual, but actually wouldn't have felt comfortable coming into an office. So that might have masked sickness absence, which we now see as sickness absence. So the figures have gone up slightly.
The other issue that we're seeing is a slight increase in terms of mental health and stress absence. And again, I think it's an increase in reporting. It's not necessarily an increase in people struggling. We can't know that for sure, obviously. But I think, again, if you look across other neighbouring authorities, we do an awful lot more in terms of supporting people with mental health and understanding people about it, and also talking about it. And I think what we can see is people within this authority feel very comfortable about acknowledging when they've got an issue that they want to deal with and want some help with. So again, you know, I don't want the figures to be where they are. I'd much prefer them if they were even lower. But again, I'm not concerned. I think there's a lot of work being done in that area and a lot of support being given to people. And again, it could just be a hangover quirk from the working from home from COVID.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Chair. Just with regard to that, I mean, reading the text, as it's, you know, mental health and stress absences continue to be our highest absent reason. And actually, I'm desperately trying not for this to be a sort of a negative attack on the council. I think the more people that come forward and talk about mental health and talk about stress, the better, because that means more people are going to get the help that they need. But the fact that it's happening full stop suggests that sometimes there are outside influences. I understand that. But is it a fact that mental health and stress within this particular workplace, I don't want to talk about Staffordshire, I don't want to talk about Stoke, I don't want to talk about the Moorlands, I want to talk about our staff. Is it a fact that from a senior management team point of view, the levels of stress and the levels of anxiety in this building are rising? Or is it just that they've been hidden for the last 2 or 3 years, which actually would give me cause for concern in another direction?
For sure, we can know the answer to that question. I think the reason it's higher than other absences, because somebody who goes off with a mental health illness tends to be off a little bit longer than somebody would with a physical ailment necessarily. So that's why when you look at the figures, you will see the longer term absence being the mental health. It might be musculoskeletal, but those sorts of things are on the rise. In terms of how this authority is performing and are people stressed and unwell at work? No, I don't think that they are, and I don't think it's an issue of concern, particularly for this authority. When we look at issues around people coming back to it, we're supporting more people back to it quicker. We're providing more support to people through occupational health referrals, through our Dove counselling, through our employee advice and support helplines. We're doing an awful lot of work there, and I do believe that people are talking about these things more than they have done before. What you'll see historically is mental health absence being masked and being referred to as other things on fit notes. 5-10 years ago, you would have seen people saying, I've got a back issue, I've got migraines, and actually, now those are being reported as something else. So I think it's a sign of an openness and a willingness to discuss things. That said, again, we want to get it down, and we want to support people, and we want to encourage people to talk to us. We've recently trained a number of mental health first aiders. There's one sitting to my right here, so people know who they can talk to if they're concerned about their well-being, or indeed the well-being of a colleague or a family member.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stubbs, were you satisfied with that answer?
With that particular one, yes, Chair. I've got another question, but I'll wait for other councillors, obviously.
Is your question related to the item we've just been discussing? Because I think Councillor Waring might want to come in on that.
Oh, no, that's fine.
In that case, I'll go to Councillor Waring if it's mental health or sickness absence related.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Because we discover at work and through absence that people have got mental issues and stress issues and things, it doesn't mean that they're actually a cause of them coming to work. What we've just heard is that it is a concern, obviously, but it doesn't mean that it's work related necessarily. I accept that some of it will be, but we can't just assume that it's occurred because of things that are going on in this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. I think overall, not just nationally, but internationally, there's a growing awareness of a wave of mental ill health that has several complex causes, not least of which is the legacy of the coronavirus pandemic. It's a really difficult one to dig into, but if councillors have any statistics or comparative figures they'd like to see that might help us better understand the performance of this authority relative to others, and indeed other public sector bodies, feel free to suggest them. Particularly, you can get in touch with our officers directly, who I'm sure will be happy to have a more detailed conversation about that, but it is a very important issue. If you had another issue to raise, then Councillor Stubbs.
Good Chair. 1.4A, which is the household collections, it's the dry recycling. It's obviously missed the target, but said to be improving. But actually, if you look back to the previous report, it was also a triangle and said to be improving. Are we expecting it to actually reach the target in the next report, or do we need to change that to a red square?
I have a feeling it'll be a different symbol when the new reports have come, and it could well be. It could well be our frowny face. Would anybody like to have a stab at that one? I know it's not within the.
No, I don't have the detail around that particular service. However, what we are going to be moving to in terms of the new report is a trend report. So you'll be able to see the direction of travel an awful lot easier, and that will be able to help us to decide where the target should be and how we measure those. So whereas I don't have the answer in terms of that particular service, I think the new reporting function will help us in that regard.
That there will be a gradient for us. It'll be like A-level maths. We'll be able to look at the gradient. Councillor Sweeney, did you have anything you wanted to add on waste recycling?
No, I was thinking of slide rules for a minute. And no, I think our waste recycling is superb. To be honest with you, I think we've just been into a final for a national award. Is that right, Simon? Yeah. Which unfortunately we didn't win. I think we probably should have, but I'm biased. But I know I think our waste and recycling is superb. And I think we've done a fantastic job. I think Trevor, who's not here tonight, has done a fantastic job with it. But no, I've got no more comments. Like I think, as Georgie says, we'll have an incline showing the direction of travel, which is pretty very useful, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Then any more questions on priority 1? In that case, let's move on to priority number 2, growing our people and places. It's quite a lengthy summary of that one. And I'm delighted to say lots of green stars. Does anyone have any questions about any items under priority number 2? No. In that case, priority 3, a healthy, active and safe borough. Once again, quite a few positive indicators, so nothing I want to pick up on, but does anybody have any questions or comments on those? And then priority number 4, a town centre for all. I traditionally at this point give Councillor Sweeney the opportunity to say something about the borough's markets. Would you like to comment?
Me, Chair. Yes, I think our market's coming on well. I think the famed prize-winning artisan market is, I tell you this every time, it really is worth going and spending an hour there. I think the police have put a lot of resource into the town centre, and I think you can see the difference if you walk around the town centre now. I think the atmosphere is a lot better. They've targeted it, and I think it's worked. And we have regular catch-ups with Chief Inspector Owen about this, and he has a list of regular sort of people who communicate with him. We'll have these people, don't we? And he says no, he's having to phone people up to ask what they think, and I think this is a vital part for our town centre, really. So no, I think town centre is going from strength to strength, and when all these exciting developments that Mr. Kennedy has talked about, it will go from strength to super strength, in fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Any questions or comments on those indicators? And if there are not, I believe that brings item 8 to a conclusion. Item number 9 is the work programme. I shall start off by thanking Mr. McKennedy for staying beyond the duration of his item, but I do have a question for him, which is that because the item that we had a little bit earlier about the commercial strategy is coming to us late, we are due to receive the next half-yearly report on it in March. Would that still be a report that you feel would be helpful? Would it be opportune for us to move it perhaps back in time, or should we keep it where it is in March? And I will also take any suggestions from the committee on whether you'd like to hear that in March or at a later date. Push it back? What do we think?
I think we should push it back. But you know,
I'm
I think it needs to go
I'm-
way back.
I'm sure for excellent organizational reasons and for the purposes of efficiency, that's the reason our officer has suggested pushing it back. So that may not then come in March. Before then, of course, we have got pre-budget scrutiny to go through, and what a joy that will be. Are there any other questions or comments or additions for the work programme, bearing in mind that between now and the start of the next municipal year, we've got quite a detailed programme of budget scrutiny to get through? And if there are not, that will be the end of the work programme. Item number 10 is public question time. I have heard of no public questions. Our clerk has heard of no public questions. Item number 11 is urgent business. There is no urgent business. Item number 12, date of the next meeting. We'll see you all on Thursday, the 19th of January. If I don't see you before then, have a peaceful Christmas and a happy new year.